finally got some snow. I'm sure you saw in the previous clip I was actually using the snow blower. Honestly, I probably could have taken care of this one just with a shovel, but I wanted to run the snow blower a little bit. That hadn't been run. I do start it a couple times a year, but it hadn't been started in several months, so I figured this is maybe the only chance I'll get to run it. Worked great. I think I'll have to replace the belt on that soon. I don't think I've ever replaced it, but you can see we got a bit of snow. We had to, of course, go through a lot of drama to get the snow. Last night they had wind warnings as usual. It was windy, as unbelievably windy, but it was worth it, I guess. We got a bit of snow out of it, a bit of drifting. They're talking maybe some more later on today. Unfortunately, they are talking about some warming temperatures. We're going to have like +3 or 4 on Monday, which in Fahrenheit is, I don't know, it's upper 30s, but it may melt. But we got some colder temperatures coming, so we will see. Maybe we'll get some more snow, which I would love, but you can see I've cleaned off the greenhouse roof already. But I'm a happy guy this morning. Always glad to see snow. Didn't need to use my ATV plow, obviously. As said, I didn't even really need the snow blower, but if everything's working, everything's clean. Now I can go for an ATV ride in the forest. Should be nice. I'll probably be the first person out there. So I've been wanting to get into the topic of things I miss about America and things I like about living in Lithuania. Of course, I can't cover all that in one episode. I'll try to spread it out through several episodes, but I did want to take an opportunity to talk a little bit about that while I'm on this quad bike ride, rather than you just kind of listening to the drone sound of the quad bike. But really, before I get into this, I don't want anybody to get offended or take things the wrong way. If I say something good about USA, I don't want people in Lithuania to be offended, and vice versa. If I say something about, I like this better in Lithuania than in the US, it's just a preference. It's not a matter of saying, USA is better than Lithuania or Lithuania is better than USA. It's just preferences. So I did want to put that out there. So no hard feelings. If you disagree with me, that's fine. Again, these are all just personal preferences. But, I will say that, probably the biggest thing that I miss about America is family. I still have 2 sisters in America. My mother is there. I've got some other distant relatives in like the Sebula, Iowa, and Savannah, Illinois area. So I certainly miss all of that. I will stop here. I do need to talk about something in the video, and then I'll pick this up in just a couple minutes. So I'm sure you've heard me mention in other episodes about how much wind we get here in Lithuania, and we have had a lot lately. And I also usually mention that sometimes if I go into the forest, there's some trees down over the trails, etc. And I do, if I can, like to clean that up. And this particular ride, I don't know why I didn't bring my chainsaw. I should have known with the snow and the wind that there was going to be at least some trees down over the main roads that I take. And sure enough, you'll see here in the clip that I get to a point where there's a pretty big birch tree down over the road. And you can see I even attempted, or at least looked, can I get around it? And I probably could have gotten around it and just kind of broke some branches, put it in 4-wheel drive and plowed through, but I don't want to be doing that. So I turned around and took an alternate road or route back home with plans to get the chainsaw and come back out to the forest and clean that up. But that didn't happen. You'll see the reason, or I'll discuss the reason why for that towards the end of this video. Was definitely an interesting day for me. But I'll pick back up with my likes versus dislikes with the comparison to US and Lithuania in just a second. So back to my likes versus dislikes topic. As I mentioned earlier, again, one of the biggest things I do miss is family. I do get back to the States every so often, probably not as often as I should, to see everybody. But that being said, my wife's family here in Lithuania is wonderful. They've made me feel right at home. But nonetheless, hopefully I can get back to this or continue to get back to the States to see friends and family. All of us are not getting any younger, myself included. Um, but enough about that. But another thing that, again, it's not saying one is better or worse, it's just a personal preference, but I always seem to come back to the topic of weather. And, I will say in Lithuania, the summers are absolutely spectacular, way better than I remember ever having in the U.S. or in Wisconsin. Nothing wrong with the summers in the U.S. and Wisconsin, but here in Lithuania, it's great. We do get some heat, especially the last couple of years, but generally it's very comfortable temperatures. Not a lot of humidity. It's wonderful. However, the other seasons, as I've mentioned in several videos, the winter, it's kind of hit and miss. Sometimes we get a proper winter here, and I love it. Other times, not so much, and I kind of hate it. Whereas in Wisconsin, you're generally going to get some level of winter. Some winters are better, some winters are worse. But really, the big one is autumn or fall. I really enjoyed the fall season in Wisconsin. A lot of cool, crisp, sunny days. You can smell the leaves. You can see the colors of the leaves. Whereas here in Lithuania, you really don't get that. There's not a lot of maples, so you don't really get the colors. But the weather in general is, as I've mentioned many, many times, generally it's pretty awful here. You get into about October, and it just rains and blows, and every once in a while they do get what we call in America Indian summer. I don't even know if it's proper to or politically correct to call it Indian summer. I'm sure somebody will get offended, but Indian summer in the U.S. is kind of that last little mini summer you get, and it's always wonderful. They do have the equivalent of that here in Lithuania. They actually call it Babu Vasara. I think the translation is like old woman's summer or grandma's summer. But in all the years that I've been here, really we've only gotten it once where it kind of gets into that, a few weeks of just wonderful, nice weather, cool nights, crisp days. But anyhow, enough about that. But I do miss that about America. Um, you know, to continue with the weather, again, another thing I prefer about the U.S. is the weather forecast, and it just seems generally that it's more accurate. You get more information. Usually, you can even tell if you've got plans for the day. What time it's going to rain, if it's going to rain. And here in Lithuania, from what I've seen, it's a lot more vague. You're kind of on your own. I understand it's hard to forecast the weather when you live by the Baltic Sea, but it's the same as forecasting the weather when you live by Lake Michigan. It's going to be different by the lake than it is inland. But here, the 2 or 3 day forecast is I wouldn't put money on it. Whereas in America, that 2 or 3 day forecast is pretty accurate, and even into the 7 to 10 day forecast in America, it's pretty accurate. Sometimes they get it wrong, but here, not so much. You're kind of, you're going to get what you're going to get. Sometimes they're right, but more often than not, it's just so vague. And when they talk about like in America, it'll say 50% chance of rain. That means you got a 50-50 chance you're going to get rain. It seems like here, when they say 50%, it means it's going to rain 50% of the day. But I'll move on from that. But a lot of the other things that I miss are food related. I'm an old man, so food and drink is high on my list of priorities. But and there's silly little things that I can live without, but at times I do miss them. A silly thing like this. It's a drink in America. It's called clamato. It's kind of a tomato juice mixed with clam juice. I like to mix it with beer. I don't think you can get it here, and every once in a while I just really miss it. Another big one is like meat or sausages in general, or more specifically, bratwurst, and I realize there's people in America, like in California or Texas, they may not even know what a bratwurst is, but people from Wisconsin and Iowa and the Midwest in general know what a bratwurst is. And I have yet to have anything even close to it here in Lithuania. I mean, they've got some good meats and I guess okay sausages. They just kind of make them different. They like bigger pieces of like fat in it. And I've seen, uh, you know, what they call a bratwurst here, which I don't know how they call it a bratwurst because it's not. I would imagine I could get them from Germany. Obviously, the word bratwurst is German. That's how it got introduced to the U.S. So maybe I'll keep looking here, but I have yet to see a decent bratwurst here. I definitely miss that. That's the redneck in me coming out. Pizza, something as simple as pizza. They've got good pizza here. They really try. It's just in America, especially, there's these certain bars. Sometimes people call it a hole in the wall where, it may not look like a great place to eat, but once you have the pizza, you're kind of hooked. And it just seems like Americans really know how to make pizza. Same thing with burgers. I mean, there's plenty of places here in Lithuania you can get a decent pub style burger, but for some reason, it just doesn't seem the same to me as some places in America. But a couple other things maybe worth mentioning. Just you know, silly things that I guess I can live without, but I sure do miss is like hummingbirds. We in Wisconsin and generally the Midwest, there's a lot of hummingbirds. Obviously, only in the summertime; they don't stick around for winter. But when I lived in Wisconsin, we used to feed them, and I really enjoyed that. And we don't have them here in Lithuania or Europe at all. So that's one thing I miss. Another thing, a silly thing that I wouldn't have thought that it would have bothered me, but gray squirrels. Now, we do have red squirrels here in Lithuania, but to my knowledge, there's no gray squirrels. I certainly have never seen one. I used to kind of like watching them in Wisconsin. Every once in a while, you'd see the all black squirrels, some kind of a genetic, I don't know, defect or something where a gray squirrel is actually all black. But I'll kind of wrap things up there. I'm sure I'll pick this up. There's a lot to talk about when it comes to things that I like in one place versus another. And again, as I mentioned earlier on, please don't be offended by all this. It's just personal preference. I think a better example of that is not to get too far into the weeds here, but I think steak is great, but I prefer a burger. And a lot of people would say, "Oh, you're crazy. You're crazy. A steak's always going to be better than a burger." I said, "No, my preference is a burger." But anyhow, I'll wrap that up, and I'll try to explain what happened with the rest of my day after this quad bike ride. So, as mentioned, I did actually plan to come back home and get the chainsaw and head back out to the forest to clear that tree, but as you'll see in the upcoming footage from my trail cam, mind you, it's not from my GoPro. I've got that trail cam at the edge of the yard, just on a fence, and beyond the fence, between the fence and the river and the trees, it's not a road. It's just a little strip of land that I keep clear. And some old fool came through here thinking that it was a road and decided to go through it. You'll see a little Volkswagen go by the trail cam, and of course, just beyond the trail cam, it turns to just, I don't want to say swamp, but it's pretty soft out there. So, of course, naturally, he got buried, completely stuck. So, I took the ATV out there. Again, it's got a pretty strong winch on it. And little by little, I did manage to winch him out. You can see me kind of going back and forth. I'd winch him out, several feet. Then I'd unhook and move the ATV and winch him out a couple more feet. Eventually got him out, ATV, and the winch did a good job. But by the time I was done dealing with this guy, and after everything else that I had already done during the day, I had kind of had enough fun, and I decided to hang it up and drink beer for the rest of the day. But it was a great day. So thanks, everyone. We'll talk to you on the next one.